Have you ever experienced a love so profound, so all-consuming, that it burned away everything you thought you were? This is not the love of the world, not the love of people. This is divine love, the kind that consumes you completely, leaving nothing but the presence of God. Today, we journey into the hearts of two extraordinary souls, Rumi and Mansur al-Hallaj, two lovers of God whose devotion burned so brightly they spoke of God not in fear, but with fire. But why? Why was one embraced, celebrated, adored, while the other was crucified? Were they not both speaking the same truth? Were they not both burning with the same love? Let us listen with open hearts. Rumi once said, "My Shams, my God," but not in the way you might think. Rumi was not saying Shams was God. No, he was saying that through Shams, through his beloved, he saw God. In Shams, Rumi glimpsed the divine. The flame of love burned so fiercely that it burned through him, until all that remained was God. It wasn't about worshipping a man. It was about seeing the light of God shining so brilliantly through someone that it shook you to your core. In that moment, you no longer see yourself. You no longer see the world. You only see God. And this is the essence of Sufi love. When the heart dissolves, when the self is lost in the beloved, God reveals himself through them. So when Rumi cried out, "My Shams, my God," he was not speaking of Shams alone. He was speaking of the God who revealed himself through him. And then there was Hallaj. He stood before the world and said one of the most daring, dangerous things ever spoken, al-haqq, I am the truth. The crowd froze. A gasp swept through the air, because al-haqq is one of the names of God. Did he mean that he was God? No, he meant that there was no I, no self. Only God remained. Hallaj had reached fana, the annihilation of the self. In divine presence, he had burned so completely in love for God that all that remained in him was God. So when he said, al-haqq, he was not speaking as Mansur al-Hallaj. He was gone. It was the flame of divine truth speaking through him. It was God echoing through the surrender of his very being. But the people, they couldn't understand, and they crucified him. So we ask, with heavy hearts, what is the difference between Rumi's "My Shams, my God," and Hallaj's al-haqq, meaning? One is poetry, the other raw, untamed fire. But both are the same flame, the same light. One was allowed to sing, the other was silenced, and yet both drank deeply from the same ocean. When Rumi saw Shams, he saw a mirror so pure, so clear. He disappeared. The self was no longer there. Only God remained. When Hallaj stood before the world, he no longer saw his reflection. He no longer saw the world. There was no I left to speak. Only God. Both were immersed in the divine. Both were consumed by love. One said, "My beloved is my God." The other said, "There is no I, only God." And isn't that the same? Isn't the surrender of the heart to the divine the same sacred doorway to God? Rumi's words. They were like soft gardens of love, gentle, blooming, poetic. People gathered around them, basking in their beauty. But Hallaj's words, they were wild, untamed, like fire that threatens to consume everything in its path. And fire, it makes people afraid. But fire and flower, they both rise from the same earth. They are born from the same divine source. Sometimes God shows himself in the face of a beloved. Other times, he reveals himself in the silence of a self that has vanished. Rumi bloomed gently in the warmth of God's light. Hallaj. He burned, consumed by the love of God, but both were lit by the same flame. So when Rumi cried, "My shams, my God," and when Hallaj declared, "There is no me, only God," they were both saying, "I have seen the face of the One." Maybe they weren't so different after all. Maybe they were both windows to the same infinite sky. And maybe, just maybe, when your heart breaks wide open enough, God speaks through you too. So let us not judge the fire or the flower. Let us not fear the words when they come from a heart that burns with love. Let us remember, it is not about claiming to be God. It is about becoming nothing until only God remains. May we love with that same depth. May we seek with that same fire. And may we one day understand what it truly means to say, "My beloved is my God," or simply, "My soul has vanished, and only God remains," because in the end, love and truth are one. Amin.